I'm male, 31, and have known her for 29 years since we were teenagers. We got together 10 years ago and have been living together for a bit over 7. It's been the perfect relationship in pretty much every way. We support each other through everything. We have fun together. She's my best friend, and I'm hers. We're as intensely in love as we've ever been. We've discussed marriage a bunch through the years. As of a few years ago, it wasn't either of our cups of tea. But more recently, she has expressed an interest in tying the knot. I don't really have an interest in marriage as a concept, but as I was intent on spending my life with her either way, if she needed a ring and a wedding, I was more than willing to accommodate her. As of around half a year ago, I was in the planning stages of a proposal. I had even started to look for a ring. I didn't spoil the eventual surprise, but based on our conversations on the matter, I don't think it would have been very unexpected to her if I popped the question. If anything, she must be wondering what's taking so long at this point. But our desires for the future have diverged in another way that I can't just compromise over. She wants to be a mother, and I don't want to be a father. Much like marriage, for much of our relationship she didn't have such a desire, but now she does. Unlike marriage, however, parenting is not just a symbolic thing. I can accommodate her on marriage, but she didn't pressure me to change my mind. She has tried to gauge whether there was wiggle room on my end, whether I could see my opinion on the matter change. I can't, at this point. She has accepted that I could pop into a jewelry store tomorrow, pick out a ring, propose to her at the next opportunity, and she would say yes. While later we would be married, still on our way to spending our lives together. Even though she knows we'll not have children together, she may still hold out hope I'll change my mind. I can't know for certain either way, of course. I get to be with her, probably forever, which is really all I want. But she wants to be a mother. Not only has she expressed it to me, but it has been painfully obvious in the way she is around our friends' and relatives' babies and children, or in the way she awkwardly brushes off her mother's comments about waiting for grandchildren. It really is plain to see. I couldn't miss it if I tried, and trust me, for a while I did. So, I have to let her go, or since she's not exactly been trying to leave me, I guess a more accurate way to phrase it is that I have to push her away. I have considered the other options. There's the selfish option, which really just involves staying, hanging with her, never giving her a child. I wouldn't even have to coerce her into this life or lie about my stance on the subject. But every parent I've asked has gushed about parenting being the most fulfilling experience they've gone through, and for some of them, I saw firsthand the exact same talk that they wanted to start a family that I now see with my girlfriend. I can't be the person taking that away from her. There's also a part of me that just fears, should she resent and leave me later on. Then, there's the option of committing to eventually becoming a father for her. Maybe someday I'd even be thankful I did it, for me after all. Some of the parents I've known have also said they weren't always keen to have children. Some still had doubts, even while expecting. And yet, it still ended up being that wonderful, fulfilling experience they all described. But even as I type this, even as I try to convince myself I actually believe this, I just don't. And while I've asked happy parents and healthy family units, there are also plenty of unhappy ones or just crappy ones in this world. I think the least that every child deserves is to be wanted by both of their parents. And I can't see myself going through with this if there's even a chance that I won't meet even that very low bar. Especially since I believe that chance to be quite high. I've pondered variations of those two main options too. Waiting it out and hoping she changes her mind, maybe being an aunt or a godmother. Both are likely to happen within the next couple of years, and in the future that can be enough. But they all seem like rolls of the dice, whose results will only be known years from now. When she expressed the desire to start a family, it was as a plan for a few years into the future. If that is to happen without me, then I need to do this now. I've already procrastinated, simply pausing my plans for a proposal when I first realized how much she really wanted this, hoping a better answer would magically appear before me. But I can't just kick this can down the road forever. I've set the date, which is tomorrow. I will tell her I want us to separate, and I will tell her why, as I have here. I've prepared myself in case she pushes back, tells me she doesn't want this, believes me to be lying about my reasons, and pleads me to reconsider. I think my resolve is strong enough to hold, no matter what she throws at me. I expect this to be a shock to her, as I said. She's likely to expect me to pop the question rather than to end things. I know I'm gonna break her heart, and I freaking hate myself for it. I'm also gonna break mine, but I guess that's on me. I've already made plans for the aftermath. I know where I'll be staying for a short while after this, so I'll be out of her hair. I've laid out some options for longer-term living arrangements. I already know that everyone around us, my own family included, is going to think I'm either an a-hole or a complete jerk. I doubt I'll get much in the way of empathy, but I also won't be looking for it. Can't plan for everything, though. Figuring out how to live without her is going to be a pain. Full transparency. I started writing this, hoping I'd talk myself out of pulling that trigger, hoping that typing it all out would reveal the magical answer I've been hoping for. But it hasn't. If anything, it has reinforced what I already knew. Yeah, geez, it seems like Opie's pretty set on what he's got to do. And yeah, having children is a big deal breaker here. I do tend to agree with OP here in the fact that even if she does agree to, not having children and getting married and living their lives together, that decision will probably most likely result in growing resentment over time, especially as you grow up and all your friends and family around you are having kids. Yeah, sad but true. Let's go to some comments. Unfortunately, something like having children is a complete agreement or a relationship ender, and there's nothing stupid or horrible about you for that. You both deserve the lives you wish for, and that means you're separate ways. I truly hope she understands. Good luck. I know a guy like you who didn't want any kids, caved into having one. They just had their third, and the guy looks so freaking unhappy. It's insane. This crap breaks you catering to other people. I commend you for being mature enough to see this so clearly. It would absolutely wreck both of you if you stayed. And it's clear you love her deeply to put her before your own. I would not want to be in your position because it's going to hurt a whole lot when she marries and has a family with someone else. Be well, take care of yourself. Yeah, all you can hope is that Op just doesn't regret it down the line. Okay, he makes a few updates. Edit, some of you are pointing out that I'm taking a choice out of her hands when it should be her decision, or at least a joint one. I actually agree, but for months now, I haven't been able to shake off the feeling that leaving that choice to her is, in some ways, cruel. Can you imagine leaving the one you love, shattering their heart so you can then seek something they couldn't give you elsewhere? The only reason I can make that decision is because, yes, I'll be hurting her, but in the hope that she gets something she wants that I can't give her out of it. If the roles were reversed, I could never leave her for my own benefit. I know it's still unfair for me to just take away her agency in this. I feel crap about it. I feel crap about a ton of things right now. I'll feel even worse tomorrow, but I don't know what else I can do that doesn't force an impossible choice on her. Edit 2. So, this got a wide range of responses. Some of you agree. Some of you think I should be more nuanced in my approach. Some are being really weird and trying to shove sexism into this, or making up fanfiction that twists this into me just looking for an excuse to break up with her. Some also are saying I should just force myself to have children, which I feel are the most bonkers takes. Lots of you are also saying I need a vasectomy, and yes, that is something I plan to do. Among the criticisms saying I shouldn't just make that decision, a lot of you are saying I need to clarify to her how certain I am that I don't want children. I did mention that maybe I didn't make it clear enough, but that has already happened. She has talked to me about it and whether there was any chance I changed my mind. I have been as clear as I could have been that there was not, and she has accepted it and made her choice to stay with me despite that. These are things that have already happened, but despite making that choice, it has been clear, painfully so, that she still does want children. That is why I'm taking the decision out of her hands. Maybe I'm as dumb or as big an a-hole as some of you are saying. Maybe I'm going to ruin both our lives for no good reason, but there's no point at this stage in restating my stance and pouring the choice off on her again. I think the choice she made will make her unhappy in the long term, and I think I have to do what I'm going to do. There's nothing else to it now. For a proper update 4 days later, in my second and last edit to the original post, I told people not to expect an update. Frankly, I didn't think I'd want to write one, nor did I really think I'd have anything much to say. Things didn't exactly work out how I thought and said they would, so here I am. I did approach her last Saturday. I expressed what had been troubling me and explained to her why I thought we should go our separate ways. As I thought it would, it came as a shock to her. She told me that while she'd been wanting to start a family with me, She thought she'd made it clear that she'd chosen me over that prospect, fully aware it would not happen. She emphasized that the with me part was essentially to her. She couldn't picture it any other way. I told her that I was aware of the choice she'd made, but that I didn't want to be the reason she'd miss out on being a parent. I explained that while I'm sure she didn't make that call lightly, I can tell she still wishes to have children. She did confirm that wasn't a desire that had just disappeared. It was still there. And while that's true, I can only see her choice to stay with me leading to regret and resentment for her. I'm not going to retell the whole discussion. Those are the very rough, broad strokes of both of our core positions. But it lasted hours, went through a range of arguments and emotions. Cries on both sides, anger, and distrust. On her part, she questioned whether I was being honest about my reasons. I'd written in the original post that I thought I had the resolve to end things with her, no matter what. As it turned out, maybe it came from a lack of resolve, or maybe she just got through to me, and it would have just been stubbornness not to listen. But at the end of it, we agreed on just taking time apart from one another for the foreseeable future. On her part, she promised me she would truly take that time to think about all of it, to re-examine her feelings in depth. On mine, I committed to accepting her choice. The argument that convinced me was that this would be the first time, and over a decade, the first time since we properly became adults that we wouldn't be in each other's life, and that if the gain of perspective from being apart didn't change her mind, that had to mean something. Trying to see things rationally, I think the reasoning is sound. On a more emotional level, I cannot say I'm 100% certain. I'm not just convincing myself of that, but overall, I do think it's the way to go. The fact that at this point I don't know what she'll decide is one thing that makes me believe this was right. It also scared the crap out of me because, one of the two options is that I lose her. It might be dumb since I was ready to end it, but thinking about that prospect did, and still does, wreck me. Based on the responses I got last time, I'd wager many of you will think I was wrong to agree to this. Others advised exactly this, so maybe they'll be happy. Others, I'm sure, will still think I'm an a-hole. Hopefully, this will turn out to be the right choice, whatever her decision ends up being. We have not set an exact time frame. I've asked that she take at least a few months as that sounds like a good minimum, and more importantly, that she takes as long as she needs. We obviously won't be living together anymore. I'm currently staying at a hotel, but her decision is that she will soon, a matter of days, move out of our apartment. At that point, I'll move back in. From that point on, we will have no contact with one another at all, except for very strict exceptions, which will hopefully not arise, like emergencies and personal tragedies. And that's pretty much it. I miss her already. The next while is going to suck. The aftermath might also suck, but then again, this doesn't suck any worse than I was expecting the aftermath of the definitive breakup I thought would happen to suck. I don't want to promise an update that will tell you how it all ends, that is, months away. I don't know that I'll be in a sharing mood, and that's even if this ends with good news. Sorry for that. Hopefully I will though. We're lucky enough to get that update 5 months later, so I'm not quite sure how many people remember and or care about my original posts. They're still up on my profile if you need a refresher. But either way, here it comes. First off, I did break our no-contact policy once, a couple of weeks in. I reached out to let her know about my intent to get a vasectomy, which happened a few weeks after that. It was a short conversation. She told me she did expect I might want to do that. We both confessed to missing the other, and that's pretty much it. I hadn't told her before our break because I'm skittish about medical procedures and was still reading up on it and talking myself into it. I didn't wait till after because I felt that was information that could help her reflection, and also didn't like the idea of either delaying the procedure for an unknown amount of time or going through with it behind her back, if that makes sense. Now, on to the conclusion to all of this. I won't keep you in suspense any longer. My partner and I are back together, and have been for some weeks. Aside from my transgression, we had no contact with one another for the duration of our break until she reached out to me, saying she had made her decision and asking if we could meet later that day at our place. Technically, just mine at that point, but you get it. Once she got there, she talked me through what she'd been doing during our time apart. She explained that at first, She needed some time adjusting to life without me, not just in the sense of missing me as a person, but also of not having a partner for the first time in a decade. Our experiences in that regard were rather similar. I guess we'd both grown to be somewhat codependent. Once she was past to that, she started exploring her feelings on parenthood. One thing she did was talk about it with friends and relatives, both with parents, future parents, as well as child-free couples, discussing their experiences about how they came to end up where they did. She also made a point to spend time with children, babysitting for friends semi-regularly and stuff like that. There was also a lot of pure introspection, thinking about her feelings as well as our relationship. She told me that while she does love being around children, she can confidently say that she doesn't need children of her own and that she would rather be with the right person. Lucky for me, she still thinks I'm that person. While we both had to shed a bit of our codependency, the yearning and love for one another didn't go away or dim for either of us. Back to her thoughts on children and not having them. She said that she'd still have children in her life. Her brother and his wife are planning to start a family soon, and my own sister, who is on good terms with my partner, already has one. She said that would be enough to fulfill that part of her. She was sure and asked if I was going to be able to accept her decision. I said yes and thanked her for respecting my own decision not to have children and still wanting to be with me. We also talked about how worthwhile each of us felt this time apart had been. She said that while it ultimately didn't change her mind, it reinforced it, and she said that she could understand why I needed that added certainty. She did add that she wished I'd been more open to her about this whole thing before I'd essentially convinced myself to end things with her, and that she felt communication had before being a strong point of our relationship, and that it did hurt to be blindsided. I committed to doing better in the future, should any such circumstances arise, and that's kind of it. We've fallen back into our relationship dynamic pretty seamlessly. She's back living with me in her apartment, and we've been making up for lost time, catching up on what the other had been up to. We've also made a point to have what I'd call an above-average amount of romantic evenings and such since we got back together. Really, though, the romance is nice, but just being with her again has been bliss. Her 30th birthday is coming up over the summer, and we've made plans for a 2-week getaway somewhere sunny to celebrate, just the two of us. We'll also have a thing with friends and family once we're back, but we'll be away for the day proper. It's not our first time vacationing together, of course, but we're kind of pulling out all the stops on this one. I'm also considering maybe popping the question then, but I first want to make sure it's still what she wants. I hope I don't completely ruin the surprise trying to figure that out. I'd like to thank those who left comments or reached out in DMs, whether they were messages of support, advice, or criticism. I was not in the ideal mindset to accept feedback after my initial submission, but I did find worth in a lot of what I dismissed at the time. Rereading those threads, the ones I made, but also on another sub they were reposted to during the past months. This will hopefully be the last update, but I'll try to answer a few comments. Wow, a healthy ending to that story. I'm kind of surprised, but it's a good surprise, that's for sure. Let's read some final comments. Quote, she did add that she wished I'd been more open to her about this whole thing before I'd essentially convinced myself to end things with her, and that she felt communication had, before, been a strong point of her relationship, and that it did hurt to be blindsided. This is basically the crux of the matter. Making decisions for people and doing what's best for them usually backfires because humans do not take well to being forced in any way. They very much needed to get on the same page. Her trying to force the OP to want children would have also been a bad move. At times, there are no good solutions. However, most of the time, mutual decisions can be arrived at that work for both parties, as what ultimately happened here. Thank God the OP actually listened to her and let her decide instead of just assuming this was what was best for her and being so sure she wasn't willing to compromise. If he'd done that from the beginning, it would have been a lot less hurt today. Me and my girlfriend just mutually broke up because I wanted kids and she didn't. We hadn't been together even a fraction as long as OP, but it still hurt. I don't regret it though. I'm glad OP and his girlfriend were able to work through it and remain together. I'm curious how long it will last, though. There's always the possibility that the girlfriend will continue to look at those kids in her life and just wish that she had children to call her own. But I'm not really of the proper mindset tonight to really look at a relationship like theirs subjectively. Theirs could very easily work out. Mine didn't. Just tell life works. Sadly. Edit. LOL, wasn't really planning on venting about it, but here I am. LOL. Sometimes you can have everything in common, at least on the surface, with great chemistry and be legitimately attracted to each other in every way imaginable, but it still just isn't on the cards. But life moves on, and I will be okay. I honestly loved reading this post. Something about it just feels so human. Yeah. Still, things might not work out, but I still love hearing that they're at least doing what they can. This breakup was honestly kind of beautiful. It was mostly us just goofing around and saying what we needed to say. As it turns out, we'd actually been on the same page for a while but just cared about each other too much to want to hurt each other. Today, or I guess now yesterday, was just when we decided to finally say what we both already knew. It was a strange case of we cared about each other too much to be together now. I just gotta hope I can somehow magically find someone that shares similar goals as me and still checks off a lot of the same boxes as her. Okay, now I'm done ranting. Man, I needed that. Yeah, and may we all find that special someone one day. Anyway, guys, as always, I'd love to hear your thoughts about this story. Let me know in the comments down below. Either way, we're moving on to another one. Over on relationships, this one was written by a couple of different accounts. One called R to the Bad Seed and Standing in the Shadows. It's titled My Mother, 60s, published her diary in which she writes about resenting me as a child. Not sure how to respond. I apologize for the wall of text. My mother has fancied herself a writer for as long as I can remember. She has kept journals dating back to junior high school, detailing everything from first periods to first boyfriends, etc. After numerous rejection letters from publishing houses, my mother decided to self-publish her book. She's been asking family and friends to review her book, and after several months of avoiding the situation, my sister bought it. She was skimming through it while on the phone with me and nearly immediately advised me against reading it. I did and was saddened but not really surprised to learn that it's filled with not only memories of her growing up but my first tears as well. I am portrayed as both the light of her life and the bane of her existence. I am extra work. I hand her with my large vocabulary. I whine and I'm rude, which gets in the way of her loving me, and so much more. My mother has always been self-centered, and as a child, I endured a ton of emotional abuse from her. I left home early, and our relationship is still strained, even 20-something years later. Her narcissistic tendencies have continued impacting her relationships with her grandchildren. Reddit, I'm just so done. I don't know how to respond to her request for a book review. She cries victim every time I've tried to tell her the truth about her behavior, and I'm painted as the bad seed. I'm so used to her behavior that while I was saddened by what she wrote, resignation was the overwhelming emotion. She's never going to change. There isn't anything I can do to make her realize she's not destined to be the next Elizabeth Gilbert, and I'm done trying. She has the ear of my grandparents, who are also maligned in the book, and my stepdad, all of whom I love dearly. My relationships with them would suffer if I went to no contact with my mother. Let's go straight to the comments. 1 star for a contrived, boring description of an uneventful life, and the uninteresting lacked lust, narrated with absolutely no self-awareness, to the point that it was just kind of sad. You probably set up a charity for the children of some of today's mommy bloggers because there are going to be a lot of people in the same boat as you in the next 10 to 20 years. Perhaps you just need to keep ignoring her request to review her book. You can't give her a positive review without being untrue to yourself. As you yourself say, she's never going to be the next Elizabeth Gilbert, and no one else is going to care about her book. So, at least you have the comfort that very few people are ever going to read it, and I imagine that those who do will see both sides of the story, not just the one your mother has written. Eventually, she will realize that no one is going to care about her book, and she'll be on to the next thing. So, perhaps you should just try to keep your head down through the process. I vote for the gray rock tactic, or if you have a grammar nerd friend, ask them to correct all the spelling and grammar mistakes in the first chapter with a red pen and send it back with further comment. Yeah, that would be great. I'm assuming she wouldn't have an editor, so there's probably plenty of mistakes in there. About a year ago, I wrote an update about Volume 1, using a throwaway, and now I can't remember the name or find the post. I'm sorry, guys. This will be long, but forgive me. I'm devastated and rambling right now. My mom is a writer. Last year, she self-published her book on Amazon. Basically, it's a collection of journal entries from her childhood to the present. Book 1 was about her kid years until I was about 7 or 8. Book 1 detailed her abuse as a child, failed marriages, my birth, and growing resentment over having to deal with a husband and child. Lovely stuff. It was heartbreaking to read my mother's detailed descriptions of things she would do when she was upset. Withhold attention, affection, snap at me, yell, hide. I was never good enough for my mother, and her journal entries explained how she knew she was engaging in these hurtful behaviors but did not stop. Unlike Volume 1, which was announced to high heaven, Mom, you're using a pseudonym? Why are you announcing this to the world? This book was published with very little fanfare. In it, I go from a crappy 8-year-old to a crappy 20-year-old. Details are skewed, distorted, twisted, and sometimes they outright lies. It's not just me. My mother attacks everyone in my family. Her parents, her husband, who she's still married to, everyone. It's shocking how much hate and vitriol this woman has. And I'm the main target. She's deeply unhappy with her life and has never been satisfied, so she lashes out in misery. From detailing my lazy eye to my bitterness over her divorce to the fact that I was adopted. Everything is a weapon used against me. She attacked my kids, writing that I had them too young and too many. I have 3 and they are a curse. I love my kids more than anything and have dedicated myself to being a better parent than she ever dreamed of being. On most days, I think I'm successful. On other days like today, I just feel awful. I was used to this when I lived with her, but I'm 40 now, mostly out of her reach. This is the lowest of blows. Every feeling I had when I was a kid, every insecurity and fear, and feeling of worthlessness is just flooding back, and I can't stand it. Confronting her or even going no contact will play into her status as a professional victim. If I write an unfavorable review or even call her on her bullshit, she'd still play the victim. She doesn't cause problems in her mind. They happen to her. Help. One comment says it doesn't sound like her presence in your life has any redeeming qualities. Go no contact and don't look back. It might fit into her narrative as a victim, but she's going to do that regardless. You're trying to model healthy relationships for your children, and you will never be able to do that 100% until you remove your mother from your life. I'm so sorry this happened. I also suggest therapy because this has to be a mind freak. I remember her original post, and I believe the consensus was that she should cut her mother off, but she hasn't followed that advice, and here she is, coming back with the exact same problem again. She's looking for a magic wand to make her mother love her. As hard as it might be to swallow, that magic wand does not exist. Op needs to get into therapy and come to terms with the fact that she will never have a positive relationship with her mother, and that it would be best for her and her children to never speak to her again. Op replies, "You're right. I think I've been chasing the idea that she can change, and with this latest volume, I realize it's impossible. I think it's time to go no contact. Thanks." Are you identified by name in this book? Does the book contain factually incorrect statements about you that could damage your reputation and/or cause you demonstrable financial harm, such as loss of a job or loss of clients if you're in business, etc.? Op replies, "She gave me a pseudonym as well. I thought about that, but other than damaging my reputation with friends of hers and our family, no one would know it's me." Now for the third and final update. Hi all. I posted this rant about my mother a few months back and received some wonderful advice from many of you. Thanks, and I wanted to give a little update. I've been no contact with her since about a week after that last post. I sent her a brief email detailing the why of it all and said I don't want any contact except in the case of extreme emergency. She never responded. She emailed me once before Christmas to let me know she was mailing something to my kids. I responded only with their email addresses and phone numbers so she could contact them directly. I don't expect to ever heal this rift. There is no magic wand to make her love me, and my mother will never recognize her own faults. I've done some therapy and a ton of soul-searching and realized that's okay. I don't need the negative in my life. I'm better off without her. I spoke to my grandparents briefly about the situation, and they were so much more supportive than I could have hoped. My grandma gives me the occasional update, but she's as done as I am, so that's it. No drama, nothing, except for a closed chapter in my life and a lot less weight on my back. Much love and thanks to you all. And some final comments. Why on earth would you give that woman your kids' contacts? She's only going to tell them all kinds of lies about you. I guarantee it. OP replies, my kids are nearly grown, 17, 18, and 19. My mom lives in another state, and their contact with her was already limited. They've watched this unfold from the beginning, and while I didn't give them intimate details, they know enough. They've also had personal experience with her. My older daughter confided in her when she was going through a really difficult time, and my mother swore to keep her secrets, then promptly turned around and told me everything. They're well aware of how she operates. Thank you for asking, though. As someone who has also lost parents to their selfishness and lack of love for me, I feel you, and I'm really sorry you can't be loved by the heartless. Op says you're right. You can't, but that's not your fault. I'm sorry you went through it too. I feel so awful for Op. It's one thing to go through stuff with your parents while growing up, but it's a whole other knowing your childhood is now published in a book for the world to see. No contact is the only way. Good God. At least she can hand her therapist the books and say, here's how my mom viewed me. Yeah, that would definitely help cut to the chase in regards to historical context. Anyway, guys, that's the end of that story. I'd love to hear your thoughts down below. I think ultimately Op definitely did the correct thing here. But what about you guys? Was there anything salvageable in this relationship? Let me know. Anyway, let's move on again. Alright, popping on over to me the a-hole. This one was written by a throwaway account, and it's titled, Would I be the a-hole for going to my friend's unwedding reception? My buddy KYN was supposed to get married to his ex-fiancée K next weekend. They were together for like 4 to 5 years and seemed like a perfect couple, in love, happy, always doing sweet things for each other, etc. We always joked that they were relationship goals, so everyone was shocked when Kaylee called us last week, frantically asking if we knew where KYN was. He just didn't come home from work that day. No warning, no nothing. I don't know what all went down, but a couple of days ago, Kaylee made a post that the wedding is off, but there's still going to be an unwedding party and reception because it's too late to get most of the refunds. Immediately after, KYN starts messaging all of us, upset, asking if we're going. Apparently, he was going through something but wanted to stay together, and Kaylee broke up with him instead. Now he's devastated. He's furious that we're thinking of partying when that will just be a hard day for him, and he needs support. Our friends are split on the way I see it. I already took time off for the wedding, and our cabins are already booked. I don't know if we can get refunds. We already bought new clothes for the wedding, and we were looking forward to a romantic weekend away in the mountains. It sucks that KYN is heartbroken, but he kind of brought it on himself. Plus, K has upgraded the cash bar to an open bar. But my other friends think that since we're his friends first, we should be there for him when he's going through a hard time, even if it's his own idiot fault. And that will be responsible if he calms himself while we're partying and drinking. They say we should use the time off to do something nice with him instead. Yeah, it sounds like whatever Kalen did, it probably warrants him feeling a bit sorry for himself for a day. I say not the a-hole. Let's go to the comments. Not the a-hole. WTF are you going through that you couldn't even call or text the person you were supposed to marry? Clearly, the excuse wasn't good enough if she broke up with him anyway. And the open bar, not the a-hole, nope. Kin had ample opportunity to prevent the breakup in the first place by getting himself therapy to help him through whatever he was going through instead of pulling a disappearing act. If he still hasn't figured out that maybe he should look into that before he fucks anything else up for himself, that's on him. Besides, if other people have already decided they'd rather hang out with him than do K's thing, clearly you don't need to worry about him being alone. So, what's the problem with you making a different call here? What was Kin going through, exactly? Opio replies, I don't even know. He's being really vague, honestly. I think maybe he just got cold feet and thought he could vanish for a few days with no consequences. This typically happens when there is cheating. Find out who did the cheating and support the person that was cheated on. Yeah, those were instantly my thoughts. But yeah, who knows at this point? Let's go to an update. A few people messaged me asking for updates, so here it is. I hope it's not too anticlimactic, though. I didn't make it clear in the first post, but I do consider both Kay and Kin to be good friends and wanted to support them both. So, my girlfriend and I decided to take the advice for her to go to the unwedding, and I would stay and hang out with Kane as long as we stay in town. I can't afford that expense on top of what we spent on the wedding. Kane didn't want to stay in, though, because it's too depressing, which I get. I'd rather go road tripping with buddies than sit at home thinking about my broken heart. 2. But that would leave me sitting at home alone on a long weekend, which doesn't really help him anyway. Long story short, girlfriend went up Friday night and I hung out with them until they headed out on Saturday afternoon. Then, I drove up to join her. He wasn't thrilled, but it seems to understand. The party itself wasn't as awkward as I was worried it would be, but it wasn't a crazy shindig either. It was more like a family reunion for her family and also a bunch of her friends. Just a chill long weekend vibe. Kay never mentioned Kin at the wedding or any of the drama, but of course, everyone was gossiping. Kale's sister, Lisa, filled my girlfriend in on a lot of details. The condensed, stripped-down version is that Kin did admit to spending at least part of his missing weekend in town with a female coworker or former coworker. It's unclear, but he says nothing happened. He told Kay he was nervous about the wedding and she's a good friend. The coworker confirms they never hooked up, but she also said that he never told her he wasn't single, which he said is a lie or a mistake. I don't know what to believe. Kin still won't talk about it, which is his business, but it doesn't make him look good. My girlfriend and I dipped out early and spent the next couple of days just hiking, chilling, and not putting out any fires for the first time since mid-2020. So yeah, that's the update. Not a lot of drama. The closest we came to drama was when I got a text from the other group warning that Colin wanted to drive up to the party and drunkenly confront Kay. But they calmed him down quickly. He's a moody Doyle drunk, and nothing happened. Sorry it's not more exciting, but people messaged me asking how it went, and I didn't want to leave you hanging. Alrighty, folks, and that's the end of that story. Yeah, that goes without a doubt that Kay is acting a little bit fishy here. It's clear he did something pretty naughty, and he's trying to bend the truth in order to get some pity from people. Come on, bro, you didn't tell her you were getting married. The only reason you would withhold that information is not a good one. Anyway, let's read some final comments. Colin really dug his own hole here. I mean, quote, Kin did admit to spending at least part of his missing weekend in town with a female coworker. That's some top-tier questionable choices. Too bad he didn't think that through before he lost his fiancée. Oh, Kin, poor Kin. How could he know that spending a weekend with a single female coworker, who he led to believe was single, and disappearing without a word to his fiancée would mean the relationship would end? Wow. Truly he could not be blamed and deserves so much sympathy. Sarcasm aside, I am glad his boy stopped him from showing up to the party. Although, if he did confront Kaylee in front of her whole family, I do hope someone would toss his ass out regardless. Still, this was better. Anyone else automatically assumes someone cheated if the bride or groom says the wedding is off, but we're not going to let the party go to waste. Kin acting like he didn't do anything wrong is a whole mood. Like, bro, own your mess. But hey, open bar was calling. I did go on a date with another woman right before the wedding, but we didn't actually have sex, so it doesn't count. Nope, that's still cheating. Why do guys never bother to get the tea? Seriously, every single female at that party knows what's up. And Op didn't bombard his friends with 1,000 questions. If I'm skipping a free bar, at the very least, I deserve the gossip in exchange. Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, us guys generally don't think about those things in the moment, but yeah, I'd probably want to know as well. But I do imagine Kin probably wasn't in the mood to be telling all, and even then, you're probably going to get some skewed version of reality anyway.